Beep, 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 beep. What have we got today? Right, Oxfam, or as I'm going to start calling them, Oxfumble. Oxfam have released, get this, a 92-page inclusivity guide in which it calls English the language of colonising nation and tells staff to avoid the words mother, headquarters, and even youth in move, slammed by critics. I mean, get in the bit. They're absolutely, look, Mike, I'm some beep, 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 all about this. Right. So they want to revolutionise its staff language across fields. Yep. Well, it's a good job they use in fields, because this is just shit. This is the linguistic equivalent of a cowpat. So Oxfam came under fire last night for issuing a bizarre inclusive language guide to staff. The 92-page report warns against colonial phrases such as headquarters, suggests local may be offences, and says people could be patriarchal. Lunatics! Workers were told parent is often preferable to mother or father. Terms such as feminine hygiene should be dropped, and people who become pregnant should be used instead of expectant mothers. The guide even suggests that youth, the elderly and seniors should be avoided to afford respect and dignity. Tory former Minister Robert Buckland said most people will find this particular use of a valuable time and resource by Oxford totally bizarre. It would do them well to remember the old adage that actions speak louder than words. Now, this... it's in the Daily Fail, right? So what's interesting is when you go and have a wander around other places like Facebook and Twitter, and it's come out and they've got obviously examples directly from it. There's pictures of it saying feminist principles for language use, inclusive language guide. You're right. This is this sort of, I don't know what they call it, fourth wave or fourth drown. Feminism, right? These nutters, you know, sex work is work, yeah, all that crap, right? The 92-page report warns against colonial phrases, all right? The official advice from the charity is not to feminise, is to relieve famine. But it wants to revolutionise its staff and language. You have to see it to believe it, right? Okay, so essentially it's a load of nonsense and it's in the mail. But because it's in the mail, right? There's people going, "I'm not reading the mail." Well, you don't have to. I put a link in for Good Morning Britain as well, where they talk about it. That's interesting watching them talk about it because they don't get it at all. Well, what they're trying to do is to right wrongs and bam, 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 bam. And then another one says, well, perhaps we're an older generation and we just don't get it in history. You'll look back at us and laugh. I mean, these people are just as stupid as the idiots that wrote the book. Until somebody pipes up and says, hang on. They're going to bring on their communist utopia whether you like it or not. They're going to flatten everything. Everything will be flattened. Language, thought, culture, everything will be flattened in their equity-driven need to bring on their communist utopia. That's how you could see it, right? Okay. I just think it's a bunch of tossers with too much money. And I think there should be an investigation immediately by the Charities Commission. Doesn't matter how big or small they are just as bad as every other bloody charity that's playing this silly-ass game. Right. What else have we got from it then? Let's see if I can see here. Right. The introduction apologises for being written in and about the English language. Shut them down. If you don't like being here, if you don't like the country, if you don't like what the country's done in order to get us where we are, and for those things to be used worldwide, the same as every other country, leave. Leave. We'll start a crowdfunder, right? We call the crowdfunder money for bastards who want to leave, right? If you don't like it here and you don't like how we got here, leave. It's not complicated. Off you pop. Personally, sat here in the comfort of my flat and being able to talk to you good Jesterites, and, you know, the fact that I've had breakfast this morning and I could have a shower. Leave if you're unhappy. Just go, right? We're not going to change how we talk about men and women just for your, you know, inclusivity guide, which is anything but. It's a top-down enforcement, not a bottom-up grassroots movement. And it's important to know that because that makes a huge difference. This guide aims to support people who have to work and communicate in the English language as part of this colonial legacy. So now I've now got original sin, the colonial legacy. This is pure critical race theory, these bastards. However, we recognise that the dominance of English is one of the key issues that must be addressed in order to decolonise our ways of working and shift power. The hell has this got to do with being Oxfam? They've been taken over. They're completely captured, right? By lunatic lefts and lunatic liberals. The nutters, right? We need a word for them. Oh, God, wokesters. That's it, isn't it? Right? I am the woke finder general. Call me Matthew Shopkins. Because I like to buy things in between. How about Matthew Shock, yeah? Shockkins, eh? Wokesters, right? It looks to outlaw headquarters as it implies a colonial power dynamic, which cements ideology where an agent with resources gives support on a charitable basis, and field trip because it can reinforce colonial attitudes. They have literally been taken over. This is what happens to organisations that let the woke in. There was an interesting conversation, enough about that. It's all in the Dubras anyway, right? Some interesting conversation about students yesterday. I was having with some people, right? Because students obviously fall for this a lot more than anybody else does because they're dumb, okay? Not all of them. So I was having a chat with some businesses yesterday, and lo and behold, was it yesterday or the day before? I can't remember. Doesn't matter. Lo and behold, right? Here's what's happening. Their hit rate with young people who have just done a degree, so 21, 22, thereabouts, their hit rate in getting somebody that's any good is 50% or less when they do the recruitment. 50% or less. Right? Because they've been trained how to handle the interview. They've just not been trained how to handle the job. So they're seeing huge attrition. They're seeing they're having to get rid of them within the first few weeks because of their attitudes and because of the fact that they believe all this nonsense. So, from my perspective, if I was a young person of 2021 now, I'd start thinking about why I'm wrong. And businesses have said that they just won't recruit them. They're looking at over 30s. Over 30, they're looking at over 30s, yeah, or over 50s. What's bound to happen? So, they'll look for the red flags. I've talked to dozens of them about this now to make sure they don't get them in the place. You just have to ask a few key questions and they'll give themselves away. And once they do, you end the interview because they are cultural poison, which is exactly what's happened to Ofcom. Oxfam. Ofcom as well, I think. But never mind, we don't know who is and who isn't. So I'm putting Oxfam firmly in the tick the box. You're a captured organisation and I'm not going to give you a damn penny. And nobody else in their right mind should either. Stop funding them until they behave. How much do you think this cost? 94 pages. How many meetings? How many people? Yep. How many were involved? How many had a say? Because it's been made by committee. I bet it's £1 million. Oh, people will go, how could it be £1 million? Well, because an hour person's time. There's a thing in training, right, years ago. People say to me, could you design a training course about blah, 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 blah? And I go, yes, I can, right, okay. So it's about 1 to 8. I'll say, if you just want a handout, it's 1 to 8. If you want the trainer's notes, it's 1 to 32. So that's for every hour you want to train, 32 hours of prep. The same can be said of meetings. Except, of course, there's a sting in the tail, right? So if 1 to 32, they want the trainer's note, so i.e. they want the document created, then they'll say to me, yes, can you work with Mary from HR and John from Corporate Social Responsibility and Edna from Let's Bring Bollocks into your organisation? And I'll go, yeah, I can, but you can times the 32 by 3. So 32 becomes 64, becomes 128, becomes 256. So then for every 1 hour, there's 256 hours of people's time. And that's only if I've got to talk to 3. See how it works? So the more people you involve, exponentially, the more money it costs. I'm going to go with £1 million. £1 million of your money that you sent them to help people who are in serious and dire need has been wasted by Oxfam on wokery to please lunatic, and they are lunatics, lunatic and not only that, deeply vicious people, vicious, people that are squatting in organisations in HR, pretending that they're doing good. Well, I suggest you stop giving Oxfam any money. Say, no more money for Oxfam. Goodbye, Oxfam. Unbelievable, isn't it? But there you go. That's the world today. Doesn't matter if you're starving. Don't use colonial language. Bye.